On today's episode of the Beyond Jaws podcast, we're going to be talking to Monique Fallows. You've probably heard the name Fallows before because we've had Chris Fallows, her husband, on the podcast before talking about great whites and air jaws and photography. And Monique's story is unique and just as interesting as Chris's. She is into photography. She's into writing books. And it was such a pleasure to be able to talk to her that we want to share that interview with you. So let's start the show. Hey, everybody, welcome back to another exciting episode of the Beyond Jaws podcast. I'm your co-host, Angelo, and here with my co-host, Dr. David Ebert. Dave, this is fun. This is like the first husband and wife team that we've interviewed on multiple episodes, like by themselves. So, Monique being on the podcast, why were you we were adamant about having it? Why don't you tell us the reasons why you wanted to have Monique on the podcast?
Well, we have, it's not very common we come across husband and wife teams. The only one we've really had is Colin and Michelle, who have been on the program, but they're both in shark research. Whereas this was a little different. We've had Chris Fallows has been on the show, and he's well known internationally for filming flying white sharks, as we'll say, in around South Africa, and he's well known in the Shark Week world. He did that for many, many years. And now he's gotten off into some other stuff. Well, his partner in the whole thing, his wife Monique, you see her name pop up here and there, but I didn't really know too much about her. And I thought, and she's writing shark books and everything. And I think we thought hey, let's have her come on the show and share her story. And wow, I think this is going to be a heck of a good story. I think we're going to hear today.
I think so. It's going to be an amazing story because I think and we'll talk about it in a bit, but I think what's interesting is her approach. She came with the tennis background, professional tennis background, so an athletic background, professional level, and then having that transfer over. So we're going to hear all about that, teasing it a little bit, but here's the interview with Monique Fallows talking about her journey into studying and working with sharks. Enjoy, and we'll talk to you after. Hey, Monique, welcome to the Beyond Jaws podcast. Are you ready to talk about sharks?
Hey, Andrew, how's it, Dave? I'm so ready because I get to talk about my two favorite things with you guys. And in no particular order, the first one is our dogs, and the second one is sharks. So,
all right, we can get down with that. I love that.
Awesome. Well, I want to welcome everyone back to another episode of the Beyond Jaws podcast. Where today we have a very special guest. Many of you know Chris Fallows is a world-renowned wildlife photographer whose images of breaching white sharks have been featured internationally in major media. But you may not be as familiar with his wife and partner, Monique Fallows, who has worked with Chris on white sharks at Seal Island and False Bay near Cape Town, South Africa for 22 years, as a pioneering ecotourism owner, operator, boat captain, photographer, field researcher. Monique has logged thousands of days on the water working with white sharks, collecting data that her and Chris have contributed to over 20 scientific publications. She's also assisted Chris with his photographic work and spent hundreds of days a year at sea. Her work with Discovery Channel film crews has given Monique an opportunity to work with white sharks around the world in New Zealand, California, Massachusetts, and elsewhere. In addition to her marine work, Monique spends months a year in the wilds of Africa photographing the continent's most iconic species, and she's visited all 7 continents on multiple occasions. Monique's extensive field work in the field has given her a deep commitment to inspire future generations to protect these fragile environments. Interestingly, Monique and Chris's dogs, Sandy, Lucy, and Brownie, have accompanied them each day to sea, encountering iconic wildlife species along the way. And it was through these dogs that inspired her first book, Sandy and the Salty Sea Dogs, that was published in 2024. And her second book, titled False Bay Adventure and Lucy and the Great White Sharks, is due to be published in July of 2026, which is just a week or two away from this recording. So we thought this would be a great opportunity to have Monique come on the podcast to share her story, to share her journey, and to get to know her a little better. And so with that, Monique, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dave, and thanks for the great introduction.
You're welcome. So first question I have is, how did you get interested in the marine environment, the sea, and all that fun stuff?
It's probably not the answer you're going to expect, and maybe the answer that most people don't give. And it was all to do with Chris, because before I met Chris, I had never been on a boat before. I knew absolutely nothing about sharks. if I could say, I probably had a slightly negative feeling towards sharks, but I thought there was only one great shark in the world, and that was a great white. So that is how green I was. And I'd never been to the bush before, but I really loved animals. So we did, I had that affliction to wildlife and to the outdoors and to animals. And I basically was a professional tennis player when we first met. So from, let's say, about 2 years old, my whole life was tennis.
Wow.
And when I met Chris, I was just about to turn 21. And unfortunately, I'd gotten to that point where I wanted to be a professional tennis player, but kind of the writing was on the wall where I wasn't going to make it. So, I had obviously a big life decision to make. And ultimately, I decided that my mom and dad couldn't keep paying for me to play on the tour all the time, and it was time to make a change. So I didn't give up tennis for Chris, but I think I gave up because it was easier because I'd met Chris, to be honest. And then I was in the situation where I knew I had no idea what I was going to do. I'd only known tennis my whole life, and it was very daunting, trying to set up, take a complete different direction in my life. And Chris said to me, you know what, just take it easy. Why don't you come out on the boat with me? Just have some fun. We can look at some sharks. We can, just spend some time together. And then you can decide and see where you want to go. And two amazing things happened. Again, in no particular order. But I fell in love with Chris. And I also fell in love with sharks. And that really just started my journey into the most incredible life that we've had together, not just with great white sharks, but with a huge variety of marine wildlife and also wildlife around the world and in Africa.
So it brings up a couple of questions. One is, obviously you're from South Africa. What part of South Africa did you grow up in?
So originally from Cape Town.
Okay.
So the ocean was right on my doorstep, but it's still, I think I was all consumed in tennis. So I never had the opportunities to explore that side of the world. But so in Cape Town.
Can you talk a little bit? Can you just talk a little bit about that commitment for tennis? I had friends who went to university for tennis, and like they were always playing, like after school, before school. Like it is quite the commitment as an individual, because it's an individual. A lot of times it's an individual sport. What's that commitment like throughout a childhood? How difficult it is to stay committed, especially to get to close or at that level of professional tennis.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was all consuming. It was my entire life. I wouldn't say I didn't have a childhood because, I did, but, school holidays were spent traveling around the country and going and playing tennis tournaments. And after school, I would say from 8 years old, I was already training 4 hours a day. And then when I was really getting into it in training periods, it would be 6 hours on the court and then another 2 hours of conditioning training. So it was, I didn't really think about it, to be honest, because it was my passion and I had very specific goals in mind. And I think my character is that I'm a very, very hardworking person. I'm very dedicated and I don't mind suffering, if that makes any sense. So, So I was good to do all of that. I was good to do all of that. But at the end of the day, I got to 20 and I dedicated, fully 12 years of, a very, very serious tennis with a little bit of schoolwork. There wasn't much to tennis. And I got to the end of the day and it was finished and there was nothing there. Whereas if you think about it, it takes 12 years to become a doctor. And it doesn't matter if you're first in your class or you're last in your class, you're still a doctor. So, all the ingredients were there to make it successful and so much went into it. But at the end of the day, I thought it came to nothing. But actually, now I can look back in hindsight and there's so many life lessons that I learned from tennis. So it was dealing with pressure. Work ethic, discipline, things that equip you really well in life. And I know that all those lessons that I learned with tennis have helped us to become a success together. So I'm really proud that I could at least take that from what was a failure and into something that's been really positive in my life.
I'm glad you had the chance to reflect on that, because I see that, like, I coach hockey at house league level, and I've coached American football at the rep level, and you see the kids who want it badly, like want to play at that higher level. There's a difference in their thought process on how they approach the game, and how they approach life is like, okay, I'm ready to work. If I want this, I'm ready to work for it. If I don't want it, I'm not going to work for it. But if I really want this, I'm ready to work for it. And this is what I wanted to kind of get from you is being able to reflect back and being like, okay, yeah, I had a good time. Obviously there's some sacrifices, but you had a great career. You almost made it. It was close, but the discipline that you learned, the hard work that pays off, and all this stuff, even though your overall goal was, quote unquote, a failure, you still got so much out of it, and your character from then. And then when
Absolutely.
when that switch, like, I know a lot of athletes in their 20s, when say things don't work out, or they've come to the end of their athletic career for one reason or another, they have trouble picking up something next, because they're so used to dedicating something, like, to a
Yeah,
sport,
having
or
purpose.
to, yeah, they had a purpose. When you met Chris, like, did you have something in mind before you met Chris, and before you were introduced to this sort of new adventure that you were taking? And if you did, like, what was that? And or was it with Chris, and that's how you approached, the same way you approached tennis, you approached this new adventure?
Yeah, so I didn't have another plan, and I think that was the scary thing, and that's
Right.
when I said, I didn't give up tennis for Chris. I gave up tennis partly because of Chris, because I think he showed me that you could have something else in life. It didn't have to just be tennis. So trying to get over that scary part of what is next. That's where you really helped me, and and I think where I was really lucky is so you guys have spoken to Chris, and you know how passionate he is about sharks. So
Yeah.
he's very infectious. So before I even saw my
Indeed.
first great white shark, yeah, I mean, obviously I was excited, but very, very, very quickly, as I said, I fell in love with sharks as well. So I was able to pick up on a new passion, not, pretty early into stopping playing tennis. And I think that
Mm.
made a big difference in my life, because I think if I didn't have something that I was really, because passion drives me, even if it's in a quiet way. I have to have something that I'm excited about, and getting up in the morning, and want things that I want to work towards, and goals and challenges and achieving things. So I was lucky that I could transition into something that would give that to me. So yeah, I mean, I just ended up having the most incredible life that continues to get incredible as we go.
It's amazing.
I got to ask one question. Does Chris play tennis?
That's a raw nerve, because he does.
Oh,
And he's very competitive. So we and he okay, so maybe his level's not at my level, but he's very good
Right.
at mind games. So that's where he gets me. So we don't play very often anymore, because it gets a bit mean.
uh, okay. Did you guys
But
happen to
he's
meet on a
good.
did you happen to meet on a tennis court when you guys met?
No, so this is actually another really bizarre answer, but the two of us actually met at a funeral.
Oh,
So
interesting.
I know I'm laughing, but shame. Sadly, our mutual friend that passed away, it was
Mm.
a family member of mine, and it was Chris's next door neighbor. Graham had a great sense of humor, and he was actually very fond of both of us. But because of my tennis, and because I was away all the time, our paths never crossed. So my
Mm.
gran knew Chris, my Chris's mom knew my mom and dad. There was all this crossover, but the two of us had never met before. So a little bit of a strange meeting, but it
Yeah.
was a amazing start to a sad end.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's good. Well, we've had people on there, maybe not at your level, but a lot of college athletes that have gone into the shark world and stuff. And I was actually one of them too. I wrestled through college, and
Oh
but a lot
wow.
of the skills I know every one of them we've had on the show, and we talk about having just a special like athlete show sometime about just the traits you pick up, like discipline, commitment,
Mhm.
passion, and stuff. Because your athletic career typically is going to end in your 20s for the most part. If you're rare if you can go
Yeah, it's
into
got
your
a
30s.
lifespan.
Yeah, and so, but those traits that you touched on a lot of those just now with your commitment to tennis. it carries over into whatever profession you go into, and those are skills that are, you have to learn like through early growing up and stuff. Really, I think.
Yeah.
And to learn
Yeah,
how to
no,
apply them.
I'm very grateful to tennis for that. And it took me a little while to get to that point to realize what I did get from it, but it was a huge amount.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm sure growing up when you're doing tennis, when you're young, when you're in your early teens, you probably never imagined you're going to be traveling around the world looking for sharks.
I
That's
still
a
think
great,
about it and I think that's kind of crazy.
that's a great story, actually. Just how that whole trajectory, how you went from doing one thing
Yeah.
you were so committed to, now going to this whole other
Yeah,
direction.
and I actually I like to share that story about not knowing anything about sharks and being so green
Mm,
that I'd never been on a boat before because what it allowed me to do is that when I did go out there, I didn't have any preconceived ideas about sharks. It's not like I'd studied them and read textbooks and there was, information that was ingrained in there that should be about sharks. I learned by what I saw being in the field and spending time with
Mm,
them. And I didn't question anything. So everything that I learned was directly from the sharks themselves, which I think
right.
is quite a unique place to be because you can see at face value what they are, who they are, what they're doing, and not have little voices in your background telling me, no, it shouldn't be this or they can't do that or whatever. So it was a very real experience I had with them.
what was your the first? What was the first when you first time you went out when Chris took you out there and you saw a white shark? What was your reaction? What did you think?
We actually didn't see a shark the first time we went out.
Of
Oh,
course.
Uh,
first time.
but but that's okay. I was willing to hang in there. So
Yeah.
actually, the first time I saw a great white was one breaching on a decoy. So it happened in the blink of an eye, and
Mm.
I don't know if I really saw it because it happened so fast, and there's nothing, and then suddenly 7/10 of a second, the huge animals come flying out the water, and then it's gone, and I'm like, I have to stop and think, did I actually see one?
Yeah.
So that was the first time I saw a great white. But then the second time was actually a shark coming up to the boat. And
Mm.
yeah, I mean, it's just so special to see them as they come up really slowly to the boat. They gently cruise around, and they have an incredible presence about them. So with a lot of prep from Chris's passion, I was ready to see them, and yeah, I was in total awe. Yeah, yeah, just completely blown away by seeing them.
And so because I know Cape Town's a big kind of a lot of. I mean, I lived in Cape Town for years, and it was just I know like surfing, sailing, Did you do anything that go to the? You must have gone to the beach or something. Did you ever think about sharks
I'm
when you?
actually I'm afraid of waves. I don't know why.
Oh,
So I would kind of go into the water and I'm happy in the water, but not big waves. So I would just dunk
Mm.
myself and then run out. But no water sports, nothing like that. So like when I
wow.
tell you I was green, I was so green.
It's hard to believe you grew up around Cape Town, but that's just my reminiscing because it was just such a water sport activity.
Yeah.
Going, like I said, surfing, sailing. It was just all that's all the stuff I remember doing besides shark strap.
Yeah. So
Um,
yeah,
I,
I
I
think I
had
was
I,
on the
like
tennis court way too much.
Probably, yeah. I think it's a really good perspective though too, because being on the tennis court so much, being like living in a coastal city, and not necessarily going to the ocean a lot. I'm sure there are a lot of people who are like that, who live in Cape Town, who live in
Yes.
places all over the world that don't. I think on this show we always think, oh well, yeah, of course, if you're along the coast, you're in the ocean all the
yeah.
time.
Mm.
And I think it's interesting. Like, what was your? You said you had a slightly sort of negative outlook on sharks in general. Like growing up in a place like Cape Town, I'm sure sharks are like were sharks talked about a lot, like just in your natural life. Like, what is the like from your perspective, from your experience, like what was the overall outlook on even great white sharks, which is what you thought like that's
Yeah.
pretty much all there is in there. Like, what was your
So
like what was the overall outlook from you and the people you interacted with?
it was that sharks were dangerous.
Right.
That's what I would hear all the time. So, not delving deep into the subject in the filters, that's what was coming through to me. So I
Right.
didn't spend a lot of time thinking about it because,
Of
as
course.
Dave was asking, I didn't spend time in the ocean. So that's probably why I also,
Right.
wasn't exposed to it that much. But yeah, definitely that sharks were dangerous. So
Okay.
we'll get to it, but that was one of the big reasons for writing the Lucy and the Great White Shark book is because of the fear of sharks.
Right.
Mhm.
And then when you met
Yeah.
Chris and Chris is telling you, "Hey, the sharks are amazing. Like they're really cool. You got to come out and see this." were you thinking like, this guy's just crazy to think that, like, after everybody else telling me that sharks are dangerous and the whole perception, and then here is Chris is like going and taking photographs and interacting with sharks, you know, obviously not in the water or anything, but seeing these sharks, like, he's got to be nuts. That's what I would think.
No, I was surprised because, you know, when we met at the funeral, so it was at the wake
Yeah.
afterwards, he came up to me and, you know, he was chatting and he said, what do you do? And I said, oh, well, I'm a professional tennis player. And that always would stop people in their tracks. It was like a nice
Of
little
course.
card, you know. And I was
Yeah.
always expecting like the usual response, oh, you know, I'm an accountant or I'm a this or
Right.
that. And I was kind of waiting for that. And then he's like, well, I work with great white sharks. And then I was like, oh, it was so different, you know. I didn't think he was crazy. I was just like, oh my gosh, that is really different. Like, you know,
Yeah.
that's what struck me because I think
Awesome.
I was used to also being the different one doing something different, and it was nice to connect with someone who's also doing something completely different and not mainstream. So yeah,
Right.
so that to me was great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure. That's
that's
awesome.
always a showstopper. I
Yeah.
can speak from Chris's perspective on that one. That's always a good it's a good line. It's a good line when you're young
It
and single.
was. It hooked me initially, so
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So you started going out with Chris and just kind of experienced the white shark and everything and so did it just sort of evolve while you're going out there thinking like, hey, I can contribute here and do some stuff and how was it? How'd that whole thing come about?
So, you know, I think it goes to understanding that Chris is a very generous person and he loves to share things, especially experiences. So he was very keen for me to come out and see his world and share it. And then I just think when you could see that, you know, I was really getting into it and really enjoying it, and I didn't mind getting up early in the morning, and I didn't mind, you know, getting wet on the boat with all the sea spray, and you know that I was pretty game to most things. I think he just wanted to share it with me. And I think as our relationship sort of evolved, it just always being on the boat and being with the sharks was just always with us. And I think, you know, I mean, we've been working together our entire life that we've known each other. And I think the fact that we can work together is because we started off from the very beginning. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the navigation was always, he's always the big ideas guy. He's going out there. He's got all the initiative. He's, you know, always thinking about new things that he could do and trying new things. And I'm kind of like the nuts and bolts that comes behind and sort of like puts it all together, you know.
Right.
So he has strengths that I don't have, and then I have strengths that he doesn't have. And I think the great thing is that when we're out there, we're not competing with each other, we're complementing each other. And I think that's why we've had such a great relationship, and why we've also had such a great working relationship as well, because we both bring different things to the party. And I'm so happy for Chris to to be the guy on you know, front and center. You know, he speaks so well, and you know, he's got the pressure of taking the photographs, and I've got the pressure of making sure the boat's in the right place, or that the sharks, you know, I'm handling the bait right. And yeah, so I just think
So,
we complement really well.
so was Chris already had Chris already been out there a bit on his white shark stuff when you guys met? He was already sort of a little bit
Yeah,
established with doing some of the Shark Week stuff.
he so I missed the first few years. So he was, you know, he saw the breaching sharks at Seal Island for the first time in 1996, and then we
Mm-hmm.
met in 1999, and
Okay.
2000 was my first season. So I probably missed the first 5 years, but you know, the business was in its infancy, so I was in the beginning stages of that. And the other amazing thing is, you know, at Seal Island, like everybody now knows about the predation, about the sharks hunting the seals. They knew, we know now that it's the young of the year seal that gets attacked, you know, nearly 90% of the time, what the weather conditions are, all of that. But when we were out there in those early years, nobody knew anything about it. So we had this incredible opportunity of having an open book in front of us. And it was up to us to record all that data and then start seeing the patterns and basically learn the incredible things that were happening at Seal Island. And when I look back on it now, you know, there's not many people in the world that have that opportunity, that from almost from day one, as I said, you there to write that story, and you there to make those observations and try and learn what's happening. So it's one of probably that's going to be the most proudest thing in my whole life, that we were there at that time and we were able to kind of navigate what was actually happening at Seal Island.
Yeah.
Mm.
And you actually you operate the boat. You're like basically the boat captain. You out there.
Yes.
That
So, I
had to
mean,
be
so Chris is taking the photographs, so someone has to be driving. So
right.
that's me.
Was that just learned by trial pretty much, which mostly boat driving
Yeah.
is just
Yeah.
oh
Yeah, and a lot of instruction and shouting from Chris sometimes to make sure it's absolutely right, but I don't mind that. No, but that was just a product of being out there and there was a need for it, so I was happy to step in and learn and do what we needed to do.
well you've really gone a long way from like playing tennis and now you're operating boats and out filming great white sharks. I think that's going to be definitely one of the most career changes I think Andrew have had on any of our guests on here. Because most usually most people like when they're kids or something get some kind of an interest or some whether it's the marine environment, maybe not sharks but something with the marine or the outdoors and stuff, and like you're like playing tennis your whole life and now you're operating a boat and looking at these big fish swimming around.
When you say it, it does sound crazy and it was not planned at all.
Yeah. I mean, on your part especially, you were just thinking like I'm going to be playing on the tennis circuit all this time. And
Yeah.
stuff and
Yeah.
everything. So you got into doing this whole thing, and and so it's been an amazing journey for you on this whole thing. And so it sounded like you had to learn a lot of these skills. Is this where your tennis discipline came in? To
Absolutely. Yeah. And also discipline, hard work, but suffering is quite a key word because uh, unfortunately I get seasick, and even to this
oh
day it still gets me, and it's certain conditions now, but the first couple years that I was going out to sea with Chris, I would say 50% of the time I was seasick.
Oh no.
But I knew that the rewards were good, so I was happy. I was happy to keep going. But yeah, I definitely did need to draw on all the things that I learned from tennis because it's the same thing, getting up at 5 o'clock every morning for 7 days a week and, just being bone tired. Like going to sea is pretty physically demanding. So
Absolutely.
I think if I didn't have that background of what I went through with tennis, I probably would not have survived trying to keep up with Chris, if I'm honest.
yeah.
Right.
And you're going. And thing is, you're going out in the wintertime a lot of times to do the filming, which is not
Mm.
the best time to be out in Falls Bay at times.
No, it's freezing cold. Big
Yeah,
northwester winds, but also beautiful days in between. So it wasn't
yeah,
all hard. There were some incredible days as well.
yeah. Well, I was contrasting it to the summer days out there, where it's really, really nice on the bay out there. But
Yeah.
there's no sharks aren't around to the same degree.
Yeah.
Um,
But I
so
think I think though people don't. Some people may or may not realize like if you suffer. I've had seasickness, out at sea in some pretty heavy waves. It seems like it
Mm.
happens. I'm not sure, Dave, if you've ever had it, but it seems like it happens to everyone at some point in time. For those, like I always had a lot of respect for those that it happened every single time. Like I knew people who went out every time they went out, they would get sick and then they were okay. Like as long as once they got sick, they were fine and they'd be able to get over it. Some
Mm.
people never got over it. My wife will go scuba diving with me even though she gets seasick. And my goal is just to get her in the
Wow.
water and get her down as fast as possible, so that as safely
Yeah.
as possible she doesn't get sick. But like the fortitude it takes like to do that for a living and to understand that I'm probably gonna get sick or 50% of the time be sick, or there's a higher chance than normal that I'm gonna not feel well when I'm out there. To do that as part of your job, it does take, as you mentioned, some suffering to get
Yeah.
past that suffering. I think that's some people who are listening to this may or may not have been on boats in time, but it's very difficult. You got the sun that's beating down on you a lot of the times. The wind can tire you out. Being out at
Yes.
sea is extremely tiring. If you're in waves, your muscles are constantly contracting and trying to try and just balance on whatever boat. The smaller the boat, the harder it is to kind of do that. So you're physically and emotionally tired at the end of these types of things. So I just want to make sure people understand
Yeah.
like how difficult it can
Yeah.
be, and especially if you're going out. Like you would go out what 4 or 5 times a week? Is that what you guys were doing?
We would
Maybe
go
more.
out weather permitting. So if we had good
Yeah,
weather and we had 7 good days in a row, it would be
you
seven
go out
good days
seven
in a
days.
row.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, when our business first started, the two of us did everything. We ran the
right.
boat, we did the bookings, we did the accounting, we made the sandwiches, we caught the bait. So yeah, I mean, it was, I don't want to use the word relentless because that's negative,
Right,
but it
right.
was, I mean, it
It was
was
a commitment.
continuous, but
it's a
Yeah,
commitment.
it's
it was a
continuous. Yeah,
commitment. But yeah,
yeah,
I mean, as I said before, the rewards of the things that we experienced out there, the things that we saw, the sharks that we got to know, like I wasn't willing to give up on that just because I was seasick or it was hard.
Right.
Like I know that you're not going to get to experience the kind of things that we did unless you go through something. And
For sure.
I wanted to do it. So
Yeah. Well, the thing is that the challenges of going out there and going every day, going early, taking care of everything. And then, of course, when you come in, what people don't think about, when you come in, there's nobody taking care of your boat, cleaning up the boat, cleaning up the gear, which you have to do. And that's a couple hours easily
Fixing the
afterwards.
boat,
Yeah.
fixing the
Fixing
gear.
the boat. And then the next day, you got to go back out and do it again.
Yeah.
And
yeah, and we would still come back and then have work in the office as well at
Right,
home,
yeah.
and do that side of things. And the house
Yeah.
probably wasn't very clean, but that's okay.
Going out and seeing.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Dave. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, so I got to ask you this because being married and going out and working 24/7 sometimes, how does that get to be like? Because do you ever get like have to have like I need some time, downtime or anything when you're just always together like that?
I know a lot of people ask us that, and honestly, like neither of us really feel that way.
That's great.
We are so many things to each other, but I do make sure we get things from other people. Like spending time with friends and different energies from different people. But the two of us we just fit so well. And I mean, we do fight, and healthy debates is what we call it, and that's really good because like I feel like I can say exactly what I want to say, and Chris can say what he wants to say. We usually get to the right answer at the end of the day. But I think where the joy comes in is that when you are, especially with the natural world and wildlife, and you're seeing incredible things and you're having these amazing experiences, when you're sharing it with someone who is feeling it on the same level you are and feels the same way and thinks the same way, that experience is heightened to a level that you're not going to get on your own. So I just think we just so crave those highs together, and that's kind of what makes us who we are as a couple. So yeah, a lot of time together, but it's I don't know, it doesn't feel like it's a problem ever.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I mean, there are a couple who've had people like Michelle Heipel and Colin Sinfendorf have been married for probably 30 years now, and they're work together closely and everything like that. And I just kind of wonder, like, how's that work out? Because I don't think it works too well with me.
But that's okay.
Yeah. Oh no, it's everybody's
some people
different.
works.
Everybody's different.
Yeah,
Everyone's different. Yeah.
You just need that downtime stuff. So you've had this. Now you've been traveling around. I know the last few years, especially, you guys have been doing a lot more like going terrestrial stuff with elephants and different types of.
Yeah.
Well, just wildlife, I
So
guess. Just
yeah, I mean, we have always gone to the bush. So, the white shark season was always that 6 to 8 month period. And then as soon as, we'd be finished with that season, we would be off to the bush. So we've always had that love as well. And again, that was something that Chris shared with me, and I embraced 100% as well. And I think, the whole journey with losing the white sharks, I mean, the negatives are very, very high. But if we have to put a positive spin on it, it's opened the door to new challenges and different things to do. And, not running a business full time like that, and, being at sea for that, that many months of the year, we still love wildlife. So we just go and we spend more and more time traveling to other places. And, with Chris's photography, there's certain places he loves to go to get certain images. So, that's become a new direction in our life, and, focusing on his photography has been fantastic as well. Like I say, it's a new challenge, and we love new challenges, and I think that's what just really keeps pushing us all the time.
yeah. Well, that's great. I mean, it's good. It's good. I know it's like I think you just hit on the key thing, like the new challenges you get along in your career, because you get doing the same thing over and over. It kind of gets more. To me, it gets boring. So like finding something new to do is really good. So, but you guys still go back now. Oh, go ahead, Andrew.
So I was going to say, and speaking of something new, when did the writing begin? Had you always been writing as you went along?
Yeah.
Because you have 2 children's book, or we mentioned them before. We have Salty Sea Dogs, and then we have Lucy and the Great White. Where did that inspiration come from, and at what point in your career did you start to think about doing that?
I've actually always loved to write for some other reason. So I love reading, and I love writing. And from the early days working with the sharks, I started a little blog called Shark Bites. So it was
Love
even
it.
before the time, that blogs and social media were really a thing. And, I would obviously go, and when I'd see my mom and dad, I'd say, oh, this is what we saw, and we're getting to know this shark and blah, blah, blah. And my dad said to me, why don't you write about it? So I was like, okay, maybe I can do
Yeah.
that. So I started this blog called Shark Bites, and in the beginning part, like my subscribers, like I could put them all in the email field. That's how
Right.
few there were. But I ended up writing Shark Bites for, let's call it 18 years. So every month for 18
Oh
years.
wow.
Wow.
And yeah, and I think as a writer, when you are able to write, for me, I have to write what I know. So it was very easy for me to write about Seal Island and the sharks we were seeing and the behavior we were seeing because I was seeing that, and I felt this. It was really important to be able to stay in touch with people that had already been out with us to see sharks because I understood that our opportunities are opportunities that not everybody has. And I felt it was
Right.
really important to be able to share that with people, and have that connection to Seal Island, to the sharks, to nature, or whatever it is. So I loved writing with that sole purpose of helping to connect people. And yeah, I love storytelling in terms of sharing the amazing opportunities that I've had. So that's where it started from, really.
Love
Oh,
it.
wow. That's really. And so now so you take your dogs out to sea with you? How does that work on the boat?
Yeah, so remember I said you write what you know. And so Sandy, she's actually the mom of Brownie and Lucy, and she was a street dog that I rescued. And we didn't realize it, but we rehomed her and she was pregnant.
Ah.
So
Oh,
she popped out four puppies, and two went to Chris's mom, and we kept the other two.
Oh, okay.
And we would go out to sea, and just like in the book, it's like a true story. We would come home to a house that was totally destroyed. So the couch was pulled apart, and the mattress on our bed, they'd ate through it three times, and
Oh.
it was chaos. So the solution was, well, let's take the dogs to sea, and at least if they're with us, they can't destroy the house.
Yeah.
And it was actually just incredible from the very beginning. Without us even prompting them, they were so plugged into anything that we would see, like super curious, and just I wouldn't say that there is interaction with the animals, but they are super aware of other living creatures in the ocean.
Of course. Yeah.
And when I saw the interactions between the dogs and whatever wildlife we're seeing, I just thought that's just a wonderful way to help introduce kids to the ocean. And
Yeah.
something I'm really passionate about is ecosystems. A lot of people don't even know what ecosystems are, but they're so fascinating because I love the fact that every single animal needs to be present in that ecosystem to make it work. You take one out of the equation and you start having problems. So every single
Right.
animal is important, and I really wanted to try get that across to people that, hey, that sardine, it's hugely important. Or dolphins do certain things that make everything work, and it's not just the importance of those animals. The other thing that fascinates me is how each animal is built in a certain way to be able to do its job. And I love the special things and that each animal has to be able to do the things they do. And it's quite a big topic, I think, trying to talk to kids about ecosystems. And I just thought, do it through the eyes of the dogs. Kids love dogs.
Yeah.
Keep it
yeah.
really fun, and yeah. So the idea was just grew from that.
I love
Okay.
it.
Oh, nice. And you still got all three dogs, obviously, still there, still with you. Yeah,
Yes,
Now,
yes, we do.
now, when you're traveling inland, do you still take the dogs? I sure you take the dogs with you.
Unfortunately, not. When we go to national parks, the dogs aren't they aren't allowed in.
Oh,
So they have to stay behind on those ones. Unfortunately, I wish we could because I think they would have the same reactions to everything else that we
Of
see out there.
course.
Mm.
Of
so yeah,
course.
you guys travel quite a bit. So I guess you got some kind of a situation like you leave them with your parents or something. Just
Yeah, so we actually had an amazing dog sitter, Mark, who looked after them for almost their whole life. He sadly passed away actually a couple of years
Oh,
ago.
oh,
So we're on a bit
sorry to
of a
hear that.
journey to find the new house sitters, but we make sure the dogs are well looked after when we're gone. So it's quite hard to leave them because
Of
I can
course.
only say that the dogs have been absolute magic in our life. They're so part of everything that we do out at sea and, at home. And we don't have kids, so I mean, I know all our maternal and paternal feelings are projected onto the dogs, but
Hmm.
yeah, they're just incredible little furballs, and yeah, we just love doing everything with them. So we're
Yeah,
very lucky.
I
yeah,
love that.
yeah.
I love
So
it.
it's
Now
okay.
you mentioned, and I was just reading on the about page. I don't remember which one, but there was one dog that I think it was Brownie that would get a little seasick, or was it Lucy?
Sandy.
Oh, Sandy would get a little
Sandy.
seasick. How long did it take her to get over that, or does she
I'm so
still get seasick?
jealous. I'm so jealous. She had like maybe like 6 months of seasickness and she's done. Now she's rock
Yeah,
solid.
that's hilarious. That's
So I
awesome.
wasn't as lucky.
But she still
Yeah.
was excited to go on the boat every time.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes we would give her a break, if it was going to be a little bit rough. But now, I mean, that they've been going to sea, they 11 and 12 years old now, so they've been going to sea for a very, very long time.
Wow.
And we cannot get away with trying to get all our stuff together to go to sea. Like they know that the boat is on, and there is no way that they are staying at home.
Yeah.
Like
That's
they
awesome.
really do love it.
Are you guys, now I guess you guys still go to sea though, a part of the time, or what sort of percent now you still go to sea? You still going out?
Yeah, so we've come full circle. We obviously when we were working with the great white sharks and ecotourism, we had the big commercial boat. But the first boat that we started on, which was White Pointers, a small 28-foot catamaran, we always kept that boat. And now that we're not involved in the ecotourism, we're back on our small boat, and it's the two of us, three dogs, and we also love taking friends or like-minded people out there as well, just going out there just to experience wildlife. But
Hmm.
as we've shifted away from working with the white sharks, we are still doing amazing things out on the ocean. And obviously, the most exciting is the humpback whale supergroups.
Oh,
So
Oh,
for I
okay.
would say probably for the last 6 to 8 years, we've really been focusing on that very heavily because we're very lucky. We have a permit from the department where we collect tail fin IDs for them as well, which allows us to be out
Oh,
there,
nice.
and that's really become a new focus for us. So just seeing the resurgence of the humpback whales and documenting that behavior, and just getting all those population IDs out it's been a fantastic shift for us. And then we do quite a lot of work with dolphins as well. So we actually just starting to find huge super groups of dusky dolphins.
hmm,
So we look for big schools of common dolphins, dusky dolphins.
yeah,
We go offshore, pilot whales, sperm whales. So we're very lucky that we live in an area where the ocean is so rich in wildlife. So
yeah.
yeah, there's plenty for us to see, and then we still do have interactions with sharks. So, off Cape Point, we have mako sharks, we have blue sharks. So I would say whenever the weather's good and we have a good run, then we're on our small boat and we're out there doing
Yeah.
what we love. So that part has not stopped at
Do,
all.
do
That's
you do
good.
any do you do any scuba diving at all?
Yes, that was also something I had to learn. But yeah, I'm very once I'm down in the water, I'm very comfortable. So I love being in the water.
Okay. Oh, nice, nice.
Mm.
That's another little bonus for you. So
Yeah.
you've had this amazing trip with all this stuff, and with all these different experiences. What have you had? Do you have any favorite outside? Okay, Cape Town and False Bay. Is there any place you've traveled to that you really thought, wow, this is really cool?
Actually, I'm going to say the Central Kalahari, which is in
Oh,
Botswana,
yep.
and
Okay.
it's land, but it's probably one of the most remotest places that you can go to. So when we
Hmm.
go there, we're in our 4x4. We've got all our own water, we've got all our own food, and the campsite that you have, it's a GPS mark, so it's just a patch of dirt which you can go put your tent up, and you basically are self-sufficient. But I just love being out in the wilderness and being far away from people. And it's just Chris and I, and just, hearing lions roar at night and getting up early in the morning and going looking to see what we can find and just being really simple. And I think it just takes us back to, I don't think you can overestimate how important it is to be simple and how that makes you feel. So yeah, I'd have to say that that's my absolute favorite place. But it's a tough
Yeah.
call because there's so many, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Of
I realize
course.
a lot of tough ones. And you and Chris have been buying up some land in both Namibia and South Africa. Can you talk
Yeah.
about that?
So
Tell us about that.
I think again, it stems back to our lessons working with the great whites, and losing them. And you know, we fought so hard to try and affect change within management and fisheries policies and Natal Shark Board's nets, and we can't physically make those changes. We have to rely on government to make those
Right.
changes. And I
Hmm.
think that's one of the reasons why we're losing them, because we're seeing problems that we can't fix. And we desperately going forward our legacy effort. It's very, very important to us that we are able to give back to wildlife or nature or the natural world in some way, because you know they've given us our whole life. And I think we understand that unless you actually own a piece of land where you have full control over, how can you make a difference? I think that's the best way we can make a difference, because we can then do the best ecological practices. We can,
Yeah.
in terms of security, we can do our own security. And I just think we felt that we really wanted to give space to wildlife where it was sanctuary. Preserving habitat is so important. You can start losing animals, you can maybe bring them back, but once habitat is gone, I think it's very difficult to re-engineer that again. So the habitat preservation part was really important to us, and also wildlife corridors. So our little piece, I mean, it's still a sizable chunk of land, which we just actually today we paid the transfer and stamp duties on the property in Namibia. So we're very excited. So we're
Nice.
going to have a nice drink when we're done. Um, but
Cool.
it's 10,700 hectares, which is it's a large piece of land, but still, if you want to make a big difference, it's not ideal. But we've bought in an area where we're adding to an existing wildlife corridors. So we really believe we're looking for areas where we can add our little pieces that contribute to the greater area. And as I said, like we really want to be able to make a difference, and we feel that when we have
Yeah.
control of something, that's where we can actually do something.
So when
So I
you
got
buy this land, you're not making any changes to it. You're keeping it natural. It stays the same as that corridor to
So
maintain it as
the,
a
the
corridor.
this particular piece of land that we just bought in southern Namibia, it's been farmed for 100 years.
Okay.
So we're going to have to do quite a lot of rehabilitation on the land to get the grazing
Gotcha.
to come back.
Yep.
And it's also a very arid area. So we are going to also have to look at putting in climate change mitigation. So there's
Okay.
there's going to be a lot of work that's going to be
Yeah,
done.
it's a
But as
significant
you've heard,
time
we are
investment
we
as
are
well.
not, yeah, we're not afraid of of a little bit of backbreaking work. So we're up
Of
for the
course.
challenge. Uh, but yeah, there is going to be a rehabilitation that's going to be needed.
Yeah.
what part? I got to ask, what part of Namibia were you in? Were you doing
It's
this?
the Fish River Canyon area. So
Oh,
we're on the
oh,
western side. Yeah,
okay, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I've been to Namibia multiple times, going back into the when I was a graduate student in the '80s, and just to remind everybody, we didn't have GPS then. We had a compass. We had to find our locations. So when you mention that kind of hits me like, okay, that's a generational change because
That
we
is.
didn't
Fortunately for
have
me,
that.
because I can't use a compass.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And I bring that point up. Andrew can back me on this. When I bring that up, the younger people like you have no idea how to use a compass, and all we had was a compass and a map to go.
amazing.
That's how I navigate all around Namibia like that back then.
I'm
And
very
South Africa
impressed.
parts too. But yeah, no, I've been Fish River Canyon, just beautiful area. I've been there
Yeah,
many
it's
years ago.
it's stunning, and the other real big advantage about Namibia, it's got a large amount of free roaming wildlife still. So without us having to introduce, there's a population of leopards, there are brown hyenas, there are cheetahs,
Yep.
springbok, gemsbok. So the wildlife is there, and if we can improve on the grazing, then the prey numbers will increase, and then the predators start coming in as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's hard. I'm sure you've had this conversation with people, but it's hard for people to believe, like when you're in Namibia, because it's very deserty in a lot of areas, and you're like in the
Yeah,
desert, and particularly like at dawn and dusk, you'll see the wildlife, like including elephants, brown hyenas, jackals, just come out of the desert, like like where the heck was this thing? It's hard to get people to understand that if you haven't experienced that.
Yeah.
And
Although the landscape's pretty immense as well. These are huge
yeah,
areas we're talking about. So
right.
yeah, and it's
Yeah,
always surprising to hear what is actually there because sometimes you look at it and you're like, oh, there's nothing there. So on the face of it, I think we've just bought ourselves a rock farm.
yeah,
But there, there is wildlife in the area. So we're really excited about trying to help, stimulate suitable habitat for them.
yeah.
Very
And
nice.
so you got so that's super. Do you guys now? You guys travel outside? I've seen some of your stuff for your. And we're definitely going to post your you and Chris's like websites and stuff because you got amazing. Besides the
Thank
amazing
you.
photography, is that just the places you guys go is amazing. It's like a travel log of just like where's Chris and Monique this point in the world here, and
Yeah, I know
so
we're very lucky. I mean, you're far away in California, but for us down here in Cape Town, we're pretty accessible to Southern Africa and East Africa. And,
mhm,
I think the continent of Africa is its wildlife.
yeah,
We still have it here in good numbers and there's incredible places to visit. So, we just try to make the most of our opportunities of being here. And yeah, I think we love being immersed in nature. Like that's where we're happiest. If it's on our small boat with the school of dolphins, or we're in our little tent in the middle of nowhere, that's what we love. And we're lucky we have the opportunity to do things we love. And I think that goes back to storytelling, whether it's Chris's photography, it's me writing books or
Yeah.
writing blogs or speaking on podcasts. It's so important for us that we can share that with other people because I'm very, very aware that it's not accessible to everyone, and there are people that crave that connection.
Hmm.
So I feel a huge responsibility in being able to provide that bridge in whatever small way that I can. It's good for humans and it's good for wildlife as well.
Of
yeah.
course.
Yeah, and with your now where jumping back to your book. So where can you get your book now? Will you be able to get it in North America at all, or just in South Africa?
So if there are any publishers listening, I'm looking for someone in the US and the UK. But it's Penguin Random House is the publisher,
Yep.
and it's available as a hard copy in South Africa.
Okay.
And then you can buy the ebooks as well. So that is
Hmm.
available I think it's on Amazon. But if you
Yeah.
go to the Salty Sea Dog books website, there's a page where it takes you to different links where you can
Where you
buy
can
the books.
purchase. Yeah.
So
Okay.
Yeah. So they have it on all the different Amazons, even in Canada. You can
yeah,
buy, I think if you want to buy the hard copies, you have to go through South Africa. And then if you want the ebook, you go through Amazon, whether it's UK, Amazon.com, or Amazon.ca.
Yeah. Well,
exactly. Yeah.
that's
Thanks,
good.
Andrew.
Well, we can talk afterwards. I might have a couple leads for you. I'll give to you, and you see if they go anywhere to get them up here. Because
That would be amazing, Dave.
uh,
Thank you.
yeah, because I know South Africa. They used to produce some. I'm not as up on it now, but they used to produce some amazing books, wildlife, particularly wildlife and stuff. But you couldn't get them in North America really, or they're really pricey to get, and I don't know why they don't
So
distribute.
yeah, you when you hear Penguin Random House, you think that's everywhere in the world, but all the
Yeah.
countries are quite separate. So they seem to just publish within their own territories, and there's not a lot of communication between the two, which is a shame because I think there are lots of books that are globally relevant, and it would be
Yeah.
nice
Right.
if they were easily available.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and there's definitely an audience for books like yours that just inspire kids and stuff, or just wildlife books and everything as well. So it's kind of a anyway. Well, we'll see if we can help you out on that stuff, but we'll definitely post your
Sounds
stuff
good.
there after the show and stuff. So where do you see like this amazing life you've been having here, going from a tennis star to being a wildlife adventurer? Where do you see yourself going now? Well, you and Chris, where do you see your journey going at this point?
I think it's really important to us. We're at stage in our lives where we've climbed the mountain, and now everything that we do going forward, it has to have purpose and it has to have meaning.
Right.
So, through the sale of Chris's prints, that's how we are being able to afford buying land. So we would love to keep pushing really hard in that direction. There's really great opportunities in southern Namibia that we'd like to keep purchasing and gobbling up and connecting. So a very big focus of ours is on Chris's wildlife prints that he sells as limited edition. And now that I've written 2 books, I just want to keep writing more because there's so many amazing subjects that we can bring to life, in the way that I've done it. And I feel like I've got a lot that I want to share still. And every story that I tell, it's a kid's book and it needs to be fun and interactive, but I think I try to put in a subtle little message. So, with Sandy and the Salty Sea Dogs, it's all about ecosystems and how every single animal is important. And with Lucy and the Great White Sharks, I really wanted the young reader to kind of understand what is a predator. And yes, predators catch, kill, and eat things, but it doesn't mean that we need to be afraid of them. If anything, we need to respect them, even if we don't love them. And I was trying to put across an understanding that predators are so important. They play such important roles in keeping ecosystems healthy and strong. So yeah, there's lots of lessons in wildlife that I would love to be able to impart. And you never know how many people you reach, but for me, if it's 1 or 2 kids that really get the lesson and they go on to do something great, like we have to make sure that those stories are keep being rewritten going forward. Because I just feel like I don't want to sit back and not do anything. I want to be able to give back, and Chris feels the same way. And you can only do so in the way that you can. You can only look at your little patch and think, well, how can I make a difference in my patch? And as long as you've got that gumption to go ahead and try, then I think small battles can be won, So we're going to keep fighting, and there's lots of battles out there, and everything for us going forward is about purpose and meaning.
Yeah. And sort of the last thing here, it's been a fascinating talk with you. What advice would you have for some young person, say like yourself, who maybe was doing something different and had an opportunity to go into this direction in their career? Do you have any advice for them?
I think two bits of advice is that passion is going to take you a long way, because these journeys are not easy, and you have to have that fire inside you that makes you want to keep going and doing what you're doing. So keep being passionate, and no matter what it is, in any sphere of interest that you have, that you want to go into something. But the second thing is always say yes. If there's an opportunity, say yes. Even if it's something that you're afraid of or you're not sure that you can do it, just say yes, because you never know how doors open from saying yes to opportunities. So never be afraid to put yourself out there. It's not easy to put yourself out there, but just do it. You never know what comes across it. And if it doesn't work, that's fine. Another one will come along. So those would be my 2 bits of advice.
Well, that's great. That's really, really good advice. It's really good advice, Monique. And thank you so much for coming on the show today. And we're going to have you back here at some point. Maybe we'll figure out something. But we definitely had such a fascinating story, and that's what we like doing about the podcast. Dave. Just people like yourself just has amazing journeys, especially when someone like yourself started out in tennis and went in a completely different direction. So. Anyway.
Well, thanks, Dave, and thanks, Andrew. I've loved chatting to you guys, and it's like I say, it's great to share. So thank you for giving me the chance to do so.
Absolutely, and the next time we have Chris on, we're going to ask about his tennis record against you, just to poke the bear.
You're going to get a different answer. It's very combative.
Maybe we'll play what you said, and then we'll have him to react to it.
That sounds
Monique,
good.
This has been absolutely wonderful to have you on the podcast, get to know you more, and we'll post the links for people who are interested in getting those books for their kids and friends, kids and everybody, and to get more information out on predators and why dogs love the ocean too. I mean, let's be honest. It's a natural instinct that they're curious. Yeah, absolutely. We love it. And thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate it.
Good. Great.
Thanks, guys. It's a real pleasure.
Thank you, Monique, for joining us on today's episode of the Beyond Jaws podcast. Dave, to go from, you were an athlete in college. We've talked to other athletes, on this podcast. There's something different about athletes at this level, whether it's college level, whether it's professional level. They have this work ethic that you've accrued over your childhood and over high school into college and into like your 20s that just never really leaves, right? Like you just have this ability to retain like the discipline and what you need to succeed. I thought it really came out in this episode with Monique, going from tennis background to or professional tennis, and then coming into be like, I don't know really what I'm going to do, find something she's passionate about, and then dives into it. pretty much head first, I guess, if I'm going to go take
Y-
this
y-
putt all the way to the end. But it's been quite interesting.
Yeah, no, it was a fascinating story, and I said I really didn't know Chris. I've known for a while and stuff. I knew a bit about, I knew his background. Of course, he's been on the podcast. But Monique, I knew her name, but I'd never met her, never talked with her. I didn't really know what her background, other than she was involved with the stuff that Chris does. But it was fascinating. I mean, I didn't know she realized she was before the episode. She was a professional tennis player, and there's a certain discipline you learn when you're doing athletics. Especially you get to a college level or definitely a professional level. You got to be focused on that, and a lot of that, what you learn, those skills there can translate into your professional life wherever you end up going. It was interesting that she said, by the time she was 21 or so, she knew her career was pretty much, she'd kind of got as far as she was going to go in the tennis
Yeah.
career, and it was kind of fortuitous that she met Chris when she did, and all the skills. So she actually, we always talk about people in this field never have a straight line journey. She wasn't even interested in sharks, never thought about sharks. She wasn't even really a water person, having grown up around Cape Town, which is hard for me to believe, but
Right.
I do believe that. But yeah, and then she suddenly now, she's a boat captain now. She's
Yeah.
a photographer. She's out in the water all the time. She travels all over the world with Chris and she's actively involved, a real partner in the whole operation. And that was an incredible story. I don't know. She's like
Amazing.
a great kept secret. They got to, if Discovery, anybody's out there listening, you got to get her out there in some future episodes. She was terrific on the whole
Yeah.
thing.
No doubt. I mean, that's
Yeah.
something that's been, this is what's great about doing these interviews is we get to talk about people who are not only known in the field, but also, people who aren't as well known, or their story of how they got to where they are and what they decide to do with it when they got there are not known. And we're able to share this story because I think there's a lot of people who may not have gone to university for science or marine biology or fishery science or anything like that, but they have this passion and they have this ability to contribute. And I think we've seen time and time again, it's happened, especially with this interview where we seeing Monique contribute to documenting air jaws right
Yeah.
over the years and documenting that population. And of course, we get into it a little bit of what's been happening with the population, and and how disappointing it is, and how she sees the changes, along with Chris, and then also at the end, we talk about their contribution back. They've been able to prosper over documenting wildlife encounters for a number of decades, and now they want to give back by purchasing land in
Yep.
Namibia and being able to have these sanctuaries or like on the process, like on this journey to create these corridors that allow animals to move back and forth without having any kind of further development on there. I think she said that they bought like agricultural land, so that'll be an interesting
Right.
journey that hopefully we can come back and both of them can share what that process was like, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful. I've been to that area they're talking about, Fish River Canyon, and it's beautiful. It's a stark difference, but it's a beautiful
Yeah.
area and stuff. And obviously, if you listen to the show, you've heard me talk endlessly about Namibia and stuff. And but yeah, it's amazing. It's great to see. It's amazing, but it's really great to see like people like this, like they've been done very well. Giving back to their giving back in the form of like this agricultural land they're going to buy and to have it turn into a animal sanctuary in a way so the animals can migrate, which is a big deal in Africa. Because these animals got, like in Namibia and stuff, they have to migrate a long ways to water, which is kind of the essence of everything else going on. And so it's a really good story. Chris kind of touched on it when we spoke with him, but Monique really got into it a lot. I thought a little more on the whole thing, and yeah, it'd definitely be great to have have both of them come back and talk a little more about that later on as it gets further developed. But yeah, it's yes, I say she was quite a find for us to get on the show, because I know she doesn't do a lot of media, which is terrible in the media part, because she was great, and she gets out. I hope with this episode she'll start to get out a little more, and some other media will have her on podcasts or whether or on programs, nature documentary stuff. Because yeah, as I say, she was terrific, and she knows her stuff too. She really spent all that time out there. She definitely knows sharks shark behavior. She's learned about the marine environment there, and she can talk as well as anyone about what's going on out there, which that's a whole other thing. Just coming from no formal training to be able to like pick up on stuff like that. That's
phenomenal.
That's really amazing.
Agreed. I think it's something that we need more people like that and getting their stories out, right? And that's why we do these podcasts, because that's what we want to do. We want to get these types of stories out because they need to be told, and that's what's fun about that. So we want to thank Monique for coming on. We're going to put links to her books that you can buy. Whether it's, if you're in Australia, you can buy the physical copy. If you are in elsewhere, you can go to Amazon. You can buy her books there. I highly recommend that you get them for your children, for your children's children, for friends of like the children's friends, whatever that might be. But it's a great book, and it teaches how to just be good and kind to the environment, which I think is great, and it documents their dogs, which I think is kind of cool too. But Dave, if people want to get a hold of you, how would they do so?
It's Lost Shark Guy on Instagram and YouTube channel, Lost Shark Guy, and please go to both Instagram and YouTube and subscribe. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. And if people want to get a hold of us, Beyond Jaws Pod on Instagram, you can DM us. All the links are in the show notes. I highly recommend that you go check that out. And of course, if you want to support the work that we do and support that work that I do for podcasting and everything, you can go to speakupforblue.com/Patreon, and you can support us there at different tiers. Support the work that I do on this podcast and as well as others and all that kind of stuff. So, well, thank you so much for joining us on today's episode of the Beyond Jaws podcast from Dave and I. Have a great day. We'll talk to you next time, and happy conservation.